the whole bar is an atmosphere. It's an idea more than a physical place. It's about creating this feeling amongst people. That's good for business.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's start talking about the bar life and the pub life. And we should probably begin. Well, you got to sustain. Tell me about the shirt you're wearing, because that's
this is my favorite. So this is from Glenbuck Brewery in New Jersey. I don't know if you can see it somewhere. Okay. My friend is
yeah.
It's Morristown, New Jersey. My friend Darren, he actually designed this T-shirt, but he himself and his cousin started a brewery up there, and they've won a ton of awards, and they're living the life. But it's really and it's just a brilliant American story about a little bit of creativity, a little bit of ingenuity, following his passion, and taking something special to their hometown. So and to do great beer. So
that's great. So now you worked in what sort of restaurants did you work in when you came there? When you came here, were these pubs, Irish pubs, or were they clubs? Oh, okay, they were pubs. Yeah, I imagine it wasn't tough to get a job for you with the.
Well, I had connections, so that's how I ended up in New York. I had connections in there. I ended up working in Irish bars. Shocker. So it was, I think all in all, I was in New York for 5 years. So the last bar I was with was called Connolly's. There's a group of them there around Midtown Manhattan. Fantastic people, great bars, restaurants. Just met so many good people through that. And from there, I went down to Florida and ended up working. Eventually, becoming a partner in the bar called McSorley's. We named it after the oldest bar in Manhattan. And, we opened that in 2004, and I was involved in it till 2016, I think. I sold up in my... it was a great run, and I went through a couple of different facelifts, and obviously I met Trina there. So my life, as I know it now, grew from the bar in reality,
Yeah, it's an important chapter in your life. There is something about the Irish pub, I think, that is, we were talking earlier about the welcoming nature of the Irish culture. There's something about the Irish pub which feels homish, feels not homely, but home-ish. Feels like you're walking in to a place where you can really kind of let your hair down, relax, put your feet up, kick back with friends. That's all Irish pubs,
I feel it is, but that's just been my experience. Like, I always seek out an Irish pub, and my philosophy was always, when you come into the bar, your life is outside the bar, but the bar is your sanctuary. You're coming in here, you're maybe you need to offload some of your problems, but in general, it's our job to make sure that your day at this point begins here. You're in here to socialize, be with your friends or people you haven't met yet. Maybe you want to be that silent person, and you go up. When I introduce myself to somebody, they either want to talk or they don't want to talk, or maybe they want to be introduced. Maybe you feel that, maybe Johnny over here might do well with being introduced to Johnny over on the other side of the bar. That kind of thing.
Oh, would you facilitate those kinds of relationships?
If you know what, you'd start a conversation, you'd find a connection point, because if two people are enjoying each other's company, the whole bar is an atmosphere. It's an idea more than a physical place. It's about creating this feeling amongst people. That's good for business. You know what? The more people, if you can create an atmosphere where people will enjoy themselves, want to come back, create a feeling, an emotion, they'll come back day in, day out, year in, year out, because that's where it was created. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think within me, and I don't know if this is a common feeling, but I do have an attraction to
Mhm.
life at the bar. I spend some times at the pub and at the bar growing up, but there is a feeling that it has a shelf life, that you sort of
Mhm.
age out of it, um, or if you don't age out of it, it's a problem. Where it's like I would love, just hearing you talk about it right now. I'm like, I should go down and get a pint myself. like it is attractive, but what that means though is that I'm not home with the family, and I think that the there is this idea that pub life and alcohol in general can take you away from your family life responsibilities. If you work all day and instead of going home, you spend a few hours at the pub, well, then their kids aren't getting
Correct,
their dad, are they?
correct. And it's
Yeah.
there's a trade off in life in everything, and there was a point in the pub where you started to see that, and it didn't feel good. You're going, oh,
Yeah.
this. I know. You've got kids now. You got to get home. Yeah,
Yeah.
the social aspect
Yeah.
has gone out of it. Um, and for me
Yeah.
personally, I got out of business because when I was going to the kids' matches next day, I wasn't there. I was just a zombie because I was tired. And
Yeah.
the good feeling of that I left me, I think, in my 30s. I kind of got out really the bar business at the point where if you see a couple of grey hairs coming in, and the kids are coming, priorities have changed, I guess. But on the other side,
Yes.
I was at a funeral on. I go to a lot of funerals. I'm in Ireland. We do a lot of funerals. I was at a funeral
Yeah.
on last Thursday, and it was, it wasn't. It was an older woman. She's older now, but we, would have grown up with her kids. I actually was a mass server at her husband's funeral, and my son was the mass server at her funeral. But we went to the pub afterwards,
Yeah.
and that was a great.
Yeah.
Everybody's in there. Just having a few pints and catching up. A friend of mine I hadn't seen, lived in the UK for the
Yeah.
last 20 years.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
necessity, but if it's a crutch, it's a problem.
Yeah. It's true. I think too. I mean, you talked about the social aspect of it. I mean, there's the social dimension if you go to the pub, but if you work, I mean, it automatically
Oh
gives you
yeah,
a social life. I mean, if you were, I mean, whether it's with other staff members, there's this old subculture. These people, and at least in America, it's like this restaurant's people are friends
yeah,
with these restaurants people. There's the restaurant people that have
yes,
Mondays off. They don't have Saturdays off; they have Mondays off, and so Mondays is when everybody socializes together and
yeah,
goes to a different pub. So I think I was very appreciative of the fact that it gave me a social life at a
mhm,
young age. Um, I'm acutely aware of the dangers of that social life. I mean, it's pretty heavy
yeah,
partying, isn't it? And that was all great, but I think I started to age out of working in that business. I put myself through college, through graduate school. I was always had one foot in the
yeah,
door of the restaurant business all the way through. Was when I got to my late 20s, early 30s, I started to realize that the way patrons, at least the ones that I was working with, I actually did work in an Irish
yeah,
pub. I'd mentioned you. I worked at a very famous one in DC
yeah.
called the Dubliner,
Been
very
there.
famous pub, and this might just have been reflective of the clientele there and the types of people that went there. But I remember thinking to myself, you can't talk to me
Mm,
that way. And I didn't feel that way when I was young. If someone disrespected me, it was like, okay, it's just a kid.
yeah,
I didn't know any better. But when I became more of an adult, it's like I'm an adult and I know it's not okay to treat
yeah,
people like that. The sense of entitlement, the rudeness, not seeing the server as a
mm,
person. I mean, I'll tell you, if someone's difficult, if they ask for mustard and I go and get mustard and they come back and then they ask
mm,
for peppers and then I go and they come back and, oh, I'm sorry, I want to change my order, and, oh, can you do this special thing with the drink? And they have all these things which make your life harder as a server. That's all fine if they acknowledge
yeah,
that it's difficult. If they say, listen, I know
mm,
this is a pain, but can I have
yeah,
an extra pickle?
yeah,
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely. Versus and
yeah,
an extra
yeah.
pickle. And I just became more sensitive to that latter attitude the older I got. Did you feel that way? Like the people became more difficult, the patrons?
Yeah, in a certain sense, like by the time I was in my 30s, I was a part owner. So, there was a little different way in which I could manage the customer. Like I had the this is my place now. I
The
have
power,
the
the
authority.
authority. You had the
That's the way
authority.
about.
Yeah.
Like I definitely would have felt that, and it's the entitlement thing that really gets you.
Mm.
Just because it's a very, very tough game. It's exhausting. You're working long hours. The demands, it goes from being very quiet to very busy. You're dealing with
The pace, yeah. The
stress, the
stress, yeah.
public. You go into the kitchen, and you know yourself, I wasn't getting the pickle. It was now I have to go back into the kitchen to say to the guy behind the line, I need the pickle. Now he's going to give it to you in the
Yes.
ear. Now you have to go out to the customer, and the fact that that's not
Yes.
acknowledged is time to it just leaves a bad taste. It's taken away from your
Yeah.
person now, your dignity, and you're going like,
Yes. Yes. As I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, my psychologist hat is always on, and I'm wondering what the entitlement of the patron
mm,
is all about. And I'm wondering if, the old, like in our adult lives, as a
mm,
you're a father and a husband, and you have a career. Very, very few places in my life now am I
mm,
served.
mm,
No, where someone just takes care of
mm,
whatever I
yeah,
want them to. Like one of those very few places
yeah,
is the restaurant. When someone cooks it for me, they clean up my dishes, they get me more drinks. That reminds me, the only other time in one's life where that's a real part of your life is when
fact,
you're a child.
yeah,
And your parents are doing that for you. So I wonder if there's like almost like, and then when you're a child, you don't think of it. You don't even think of your parents
fact,
as people, as
yeah,
having
yeah. They
their
live
own
to serve
needs.
us. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I wonder if it's almost like it's like a regressing back to those earlier years sometimes, if you're
yeah,
not careful, when you go out to eat or you go out to have a drink.
yeah.
It's like you go back into your childhood a bit. And so the
Yeah,
entitlement comes
I've seen
back.
a few big babies. All right, when I was. It's also, you know what, and I've seen a lot. Is people that middle ground, let's say that new money that or that people that grew up on title that
Mm,
literally didn't they weren't brought up properly, for want of a better word. They weren't mommy and daddy
yeah,
didn't teach them right from wrong. They are very
that's right.
difficult people. But if they're difficult to the server, and this is what I always I said, oh, I don't have to go home with these people. They're if
Mm,
a leopard doesn't change. It's they're going to be like that with their other half. Or like I would have empathy by the time I'm done. That's what I kind of used to get into my head. It's like, oh Jesus, I just have to deal with you for 2 minutes, and you know what? You're going to give me 20% plus whatever else on top of it. So you know.
Donal, you'd make a brilliant therapist. This is one of the lessons I learned when I was going
Mm,
through my training. Was that if you're dealing with a client who's
yeah,
a challenge, who's difficult, who's blaming you for their problems, they're attacking you,
yeah,
like this kind of thing happens. It's because it's what you pointed to. It's because they're hurt. It's not about you. And however hard it is for you as a therapist, it's 1,000 times worse because they have to live with
dude,
themselves and they have to take the way they're treating you with them wherever they go. And that does elicit compassion and empathy. It helps you deal with them when they're difficult. I mean, you picked that up, that insight and wisdom on no wonder your name is
yeah.
Donal, ruler of the wise, just in the pub. To be honest, though, it comes to my mind now that I think I did learn some clinical skills just from
Yeah,
working in the pub.
you do. You have to take a step back and go right. Again, our job in the bars, and I say it was kind of take it in to send them out a little bit better. But you don't take their shit. Excuse my. You don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Totally.
not there to take it, but you just have to be aware of it. That was always my thing.
Yeah.